Hi, welcome to Planning Commission meeting for April 2nd, 2025. This should hopefully be a good meeting. Well, I wanted to say something else, but I don't dare jinx me. But we'll start off with a prayer by Commissioner Schill and a pledge by Commissioner Davis.
Our Father in heaven, as we gather today in Planning Commission for Washington City, we're thankful for this opportunity to be together and review the items on the agenda. We're thankful for the opportunities we have to serve and to help the community, and pray that it does help the community, that we can do well for them. Pray that we'll be a strong community and have love for one another and kindness for one another. And we pray for this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please stand, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda tonight is the approval of the agenda.
Commissioner Davis, I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Schill, I second.
Have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 2 is the approval of the minutes from the March 19th, 2025 meeting.
Schill, I move that we approve the minutes from the March 19th, 2025 Planning Commission.
This is Davis with a second.
Have a first by Commissioner Schill, second by Commissioner Davis. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 3, declaration of abstentions and conflicts. Does anyone have any with tonight's agenda?
None.
Okay. We will go straight into item number 4. 4A is a Z-25-05, a request to rezone approximately 12.04 acres located on the southwest corner of George Washington Boulevard and Washington Fields Road from the current A20 zoning to the PUDC zoning designation. We will turn the time over to Eldon.
Thank you, Commissioners. Good evening. The requested change is from the current zoning of Agricultural 20 to a proposed PUD zoning designation. The zone change request is for the purpose of developing the site into a commercial development. The applicant will be required and fully understands they will need to bring the specific design and use plan back before the city for approval prior to any work begins on this site. Again, this proposal is only for the zoning approval with no submitted project plan. This particular location has a general plan land use designation of community commercial. The surrounding zoning to the parcel is PUDC to the north, A20 to the east, PUDR and R16 to the south, and R115 to the west. The proposed zone change is in line with the general plan. Staff recommends the Planning Commission recommend approval of Z-25-05 for the zone change request from the current zone of Agricultural 20 to the proposed PUDC zoning designation, and this will go on to City Council based on the findings and conditions as stated in the report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
You guys have any questions for Eldon? Thanks, Eldon. So this is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this item, 4A, now is your chance to do it. Wow, really? Okay. we will close the public hearing on this part of it. Do you guys have any questions or concerns before we make a motion on this?
Is there any idea what's going on there that can be explained, or are we just going with kind of a commercial zoning?
I'll comment on that. It's a comment I've made ever since I took this post. PCD zoning, as written in the city's code, is intended to require a whole bunch of planning up front. And so I'm in the city's code right now. It says the application must provide a map of existing sites, preliminary schematic plan, a written statement of intended objectives. And then it has another section, section 7, that says the schematic plan must require, and then it has a bunch of lists there. And then it has another section, section 8, that says the project plan must require, and it's got 10 things listed there. So the overall intent is to couple the planning process with the zoning vesting process. It does have one exception that says that if the council finds it appropriate, then they can receive the PCD zoning without any of that. And so I would say the exception is what you're seeing tonight, which is that it's a request for a zone without all of the planning. But the purpose of our code as it's written, and the main meat of all of the requirements in there, is to require planning and specifications at the time of the zoning decision. So that's just being responsive to Commissioner Shields' request.
Where,
Well, we learned that he's seen all of this in other applications and it's not here tonight.
but where this is already, so maybe, let me rephrase that question. They would still come in for the zoning change and then come back again for the PUDC at a different time. Either way, they would still just do one and then the other. We wouldn't do.
It's one and the same. And so in subsection 8 of the code, project plan, proposed name and address, proposed land uses, designation of roads, topography, public and civic facilities, design guidelines and standards, grading plan, utilities plan. Anyway, it continues until letter P of things that we require of them. This is approaching it in one of the exception cases where they're saying, give us this shell zoning without any of the planning. And sometimes the city council has found it fit to do so. But the code that it's asking you to recommend approval for, the entirety of it is meant to plan at the same, contemporary with the approval of the zone that you give it. And so we've got a PCD that's been in our city for 10 plus years that wants to change their name right now. The name itself is baked into the zone change. And so to change the name of their community, they have to actually do a zone change of the PCD because the zone change vested the name too. And so that's just an example of how detailed the planned community zone changes are, is it could include things like a name is part of the zone change, right? Now tonight's isn't providing all that, it's just providing it as a shell.
Is there an advantage to this, doing it this way? For anyone?
No, I'll just step in if that doesn't mind. Usually what they'll do is they just want to know that they have their zoning in place. Like I say, especially when something's for sale. They don't want to have it out there hanging at, let's say, 20, that it could go to that. The city's agreeing at this time, if it passes, if you recommend city council passes it, it just gives them a little more comfort knowing that it's already zoned PUD. They just have to come back and give you the specifics. So it's just out in that business world. This is one of those things that we talked about when we redid the PUD, is what a lot of them are looking for to have. So that's basically what it is. It gives them a little bit more comfort in knowing it already has the PUD zoning. We just bring you back what we're doing and what it looks like at a later date.
Define the uses in that PUDC?
PUD, it just says commercial uses are you can just, it's pretty broad in that, and that's what it does. But it's saying it's not ag anymore. It's now going to be a planned unit development. That's what this gives them, that the city's agreed that we're going to accept a planned unit development. If you bring us something we agree on, then they don't have to fight to even get the PUD part of it. That's already in place. They just need to bring you the nuts and bolts of what the thing's actually going to look like.
So they'll still come back and we'll still see it.
have to, because right now, they can only build a PUD with what's approved. If nothing's been approved, they have the PUD, but they can't build anything because nobody's agreed to let them build what, whatever it is they're proposing.
Well, by doing it this way, would it cause, like if they're, once the applicant gets it and comes back and says, well, I wanted to do this and it's in the PUD zoning, but it's something that we don't feel fits there, that's just they're out of luck because they're gonna have to come back and get something that's there? Because whatever decides to go in there, I mean, I have no clue, obviously, but I mean, it could be something that could not just work out like that.
And they do take a somewhat more probably of a risk that way. If they came in with straight zoning and said, I want this C2 or C3, then you can't sit there and, if they brought something that fit in your C2 and C3 specifically in straight zoning, you wouldn't have an option.
But in the PUDC, there's still stuff that can be restricted out of it, correct?
I don't know if I'd use the word restricted out of it, and I'm not trying to split hairs. I'm just saying that you have more flexibility as a council. They have more flexibility, you have more flexibility in the PUD. There is
Compromise.
flexibility both directions.
There's
Okay.
more room to compromise.
So in the code, the listed permitted uses are church, general commercial business of retail trade nature, including office and professional use, industrial as outlined in the city code, residential in mixed-use commercial developments, and any combination of those, or other uses that may be determined by the planning commission to be compatible in harmony with the plan. And so those are the defined permitted uses. Obviously, they're just categorical uses. If they did all of the planning up front, you would be seeing site plans and all of that stuff. The city not recently, but the city once sold a piece of land to an applicant, and that applicant would not close on the transaction without the entire process having already been approved, right? And so Drew's very much accurate with my experience in that sometimes there's a buyer that's willing to buy and invest, but they want something to have some approval that they'll invest in. And that's probably the best example of when this exception gets used. Essentially what they will have to do is that new buyer will have to come through and do all of that planning at some point before they can ever get a plan reviewed or a plan approved for anything to be built on there.
Awesome.
This is Commissioner Davis. So just so that I understand, is that kind of where we are here then? That this property is potentially to be sold, and prior to entering into any kind of transaction, they're looking to ensure that this is set up so it's going to make the transaction for a retail space go a little cleaner or plan, and maybe this will.
Doesn't have to necessarily be so, they could also be, they're just trying to get.
Yeah, right. That's true too.
Dave Nazel, the applicant. Am I allowed to
There we
talk
go.
post-public hearing closing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a little bit of that, just to clarify. So it is a transaction where we're purchasing 3/4 of the property, the landowners retaining a third of it. And so we anticipate moving forward quickly on the parcel that we purchased from them. And then depending on what the uses are that they have, we're happy to help out with that process. But if for some reason it's a little bit different, we want to be able to move forward on the 9 acres that we're purchasing. And so our understanding is like what Drew mentioned, is we need to bring back everything anyway from the use, the elevations, that you're going to get to look at that and give a thumbs up or thumbs down on that in the future anyway. We just don't take municipality risk ourselves because we've seen projects that we didn't think should get approved. I'm not saying this in Washington. We've seen things that we thought should get approved, not get approved, so.
Awesome. Thank you.
We just wanted you to get up. Good exercise.
Dave, if you'll come back up, just to give you a little more exercise. I'm looking at an application that covers all the 12 acres. Can you develop for me a little further this idea that the current owner will retain some? Are they intending to be part of the the planned unit?
No, but so to get a little in front of us for a couple weeks from now or whatever, after this comes to zone, would be for a 3-lot subdivision.
So you change the zone, pull some acres out.
Yeah, so along George Washington, there would be 2 parcels there. The 9 acres on the south side would be the 3rd parcel. That would be what we're purchasing. And we'll develop together because there'll be cross-use easements and whatnot, because it'll be commercial, shared parking. Any other questions?
So you're only taking the one against the townhomes and again, you'll be backed up to the residential then?
Yeah, on the west and the south, and then out to Washington Fields Road on the east side.
Okay. Possibly. Depends on when the owners decide to move forward.
Well, you got to see it.
This is Commissioner Anderson, so I mean, it's already general planned as commercial. This is just one of the zoning uses in commercial, and they're just asking for a split. That's the details at a second time.
I mean, it's
It's fine. I don't like where we've had some people come in and treat, straight zoning and do, well, here's this one building and here's this other building, and where we're just getting the actual overall zoning and then coming back with the whole project.
So,
It's better.
but my question is we'll have 3 different PUDCs come in if they subdivide it and bring it in that way, right? That?
Yeah, in theory, it could have 12 if they did 12 separate small ones. Now, that's not a good example because it's not going to happen. Landowners always had the ability to make zone changes and zone applications and then change them. I felt like, based on his comments, it was important to clarify because we weren't looking at a 9-acre and a 3-acre split. We were looking at a total one, and so he gave us some clarity as to what the plan is there, and that would be an administrative process that the city would receive and would respond to, because that's within a right to do there. I think it probably helps the commissioners to have a better understanding of what was intended there. I don't know if I understood his comments to mean that the landowner's going to keep a 3-acre PUD or PCD, or whether they're going to zone them something else. I don't know if that was clear there, but in theory, the landowner could do either one. He could do a straight zoning request there. He could do a PUDC request there. And so, yeah, in theory, one of those would meet the direction indicated by the general plan.
The landowner would possibly have a harder time pulling out of a PUDC from the city than going straight commercial rather than going originally straight commercial.
Yeah, and there's a number of issues. That landowner's not going to get accesses off of George Washington Boulevard for 3 lots. And so I think the city planning folks and the site plan review folks are all going to probably encourage them to use the access infrastructure that's going to apply to the 9 acres on the south, right? And so there's some issues like that. I'm sure they've talked about them and have worked through them a little bit. But yeah, if the landowner is going to retain those 3 on the north point there, hopefully there's going to be some degree of cooperation with the other, because they're going to need it. Yeah.
Well, they'd still be able to have a right-in off of George Washington Boulevard, wouldn't they?
I don't know.
We've had a couple meetings with staff, but on the north side for what's been approved on the Patel property there was the snows with the access will line up the same.
So there'll be an intersection there.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be, and it'll be shared. That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
this will be, even though it's going to be in a couple parcels and there's going to be a lot more than 3 buildings in there. If you think of like Smith's or Lynn's and the buildings there, it'll be something along those lines where there's drive aisles and parking for the individual structures and stuff. But even though it'll be in two pieces, we anticipate this goes, or three, I guess, but two owners, that this all tries to go at the same time. It's just a function of what's ready to go from a market standpoint.
All right, thank you.
This also isn't really going anywhere either. And so, yeah, so that stuff all has timing that just works its way out.
You guys have any other questions?
No, that makes sense. You want a motion?
Commissioner Anderson, I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Z-25-05, a request to rezone approximately 12.04 acres located along the southeast corner of George Washington Boulevard and Washington Fields Road from the current A20 zoning to PUDC zoning designations with the recommendations outlined by staff.
Davis, second.
First by Commissioner Anderson, a second by Commissioner Davis. Individual voting, Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Commissioner Shield.
Aye.
Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Bullock, I'm an aye as well. So this will go to City Council. Item 4B is a Z-25-09, a request to amend a portion of the Stuckey Farms PCD, making changes to the setbacks listed in the medium-density pods. We'll turn this over to Eldon.
The applicant is proposing to change the current medium-density side yard setback from 8 feet to a proposed 5 feet in the Stuckey Farms PCD development. The applicant is also requesting a 10-foot side load garage setback while maintaining the 20-foot driveway length. No other changes are being made at this time. Staff has no concerns with the proposed zone change as outlined, and staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of Z-25-09 for the zone change request, amending the zoning comparison chart, and this also will go on to the City Council with the findings and conditions stated in the report. So if you look on that medium density line item, scroll all the way over to the right, you can see those setbacks are now updated to a 5/5 is where those changes are at. So the units would be a 10 foot apart, 5 foot from the property line. The reason for this is to accommodate Visionary Homes, their floor plan down on the southern end. They have a big sign up where that development's going, and this will accommodate their plans.
And that was my question. They're not gaining any more units by shrinking these. They're just putting bigger homes on the lot, basically. I mean, in theory, the way it lays out.
Yeah, they reduced those lots quite a bit there, a little bit smaller with the smaller floor plan. So the street frontage is limited. They're not as wide, a little bit wider and more deep. So this will help accommodate that floor plan.
Okay, so that I understand, it's not, are we packing them in tighter? That's what we're doing, we're packing them in tighter?
Essentially.
Well, the density is going to remain the same, but the homes will be closer together, yes.
So it'll take the square footage of the houses bigger, right? From what to what? 1,200 to 1,800, or what are you talking?
I don't know the square footage of the homes. They're smaller homes. I don't think they're over 2,000 square feet. I think they're targeting the kind of low end.
2-car garage, single car,
Yes,
car garage?
correct. Yeah, 2-car garage, 20-foot driveway. And entry-level homes.
How big a plat's this?
I don't have that off the top of my head.
How many units are they talking?
If you give me a minute, I could dig in here and find that information for you.
I'm curious, I mean, I don't, it's not. I'm just curious how many. What is it? It's only at the, it's only at the what section?
It says cottage courts, is that what we're looking at?
So it's medium density. It just says medium. Is that all of it or just medium?
What's the question here?
It says medium density, right?
Correct. Yes.
So is that medium high, medium, both of those that'll switch?
No, it's the medium density, the R16, R18 line item. Right above the R2. The R2 already had the designated 5 and 5, so they're just rolling this into the single family.
Just go to this one.
Correct. Exactly.
So those changes were previously made
Um,
to the R2? And-
Yeah,
well,
or originally approved with the original. I'm
in a
not
prior session?
correct. Yes. So this is the Water's Edge subdivision. Just trying to look for the density here. Total area is 22.19 acres, 100 townhomes, 78 single-family lots. So it apply to those 78 single-family homes. The townhomes are attached.
Hey, this is Commissioner Davis, just one more question, just to make sure that I'm clear on the 10-foot side load garage element of this. Can you just help me understand that? I mean, what would the change, what exactly is that change?
So traditionally, homes are set back 20 feet, which allows a 20-foot garage. This 10-foot setback allows them to push the garage to 10 foot off the street. But yeah, the garage is required to be 20-foot length to the back so that it's a side load garage. So you go in and make a turn, a 90-degree turn, and pull into the garage. So it pulls the structure out to the street, but yet still accommodates a 20-foot
Okay.
depth driveway.
Okay.
So you can park a vehicle in that driveway and not extend onto the street.
All right, well, that's a good, all right, that's not in this element, this is in the chart, correct?
That is included on the chart as well.
Where was that?
Yeah, down below, there's an asterisk there
I saw the comment, looking for it in the grid, but
Or maybe it's, yeah, the number 2 line item, it's included in that.
got it. Okay. Yeah, I've got that piece. Thank you.
I don't know. What are you guys thinking? I mean, let's
Well,
talk it out just
As
so we can
Commissioner Anderson, I mean,
figure it out.
I can see
Let me-
why there has.
Can I tie this back to my earlier comments on the other application?
Yes, please do.
So this is showing you how detailed the city code requires that PCD applications get. And so in the last year or so, the original owner of the Stuckey Farms PCD sold to a new owner. The new owner is seeking some changes in standards like this. And so that's what they're doing. And again, this is showing how detailed the PCD zoning really gets, especially once you've got all your plans approved and you've gone to work and built some and sold some to a new owner. The new owner might not have the same vision as the prior owner and might be wanting to make some changes. Now, in the Stuckey Farm circumstance, it's a fairly old PCD. And so some of what you see is just modernization of standards that might have made sense in '06 that in modern times maybe don't make as much sense, or maybe don't, the old standards aren't allowing them to bring the product that they think the modern market would like to see there. And so this is a zone change of what our code requires, extensive details. If it was a straight zoned residential, it would just, change me from an R18 to an R110, right? But this is the extensive detail that PCD planning allows you to have if you require it upon consideration. But it requires more amendments to your zone than you would if you were just a straight zone. Straight zones rarely come back and amend things because it's just city code based. So staff's, of course, allowed them to submit a zone change because it's permitted under our code. The only red flag I have for you is the very bottom line in capital letters. There is a process between this applicant and the city council underway where they're trying to define the total units allowed. And so you'll see on the very bottom of that document, the maximum total units allowed. Yeah, that is not approved at this point. That is not, the city does not agree that that's the maximum total units allowed, but the applicant and the city council are working on reaching an agreement on that point, but that hasn't been agreed as of today.
Well, would that be, yeah, I mean, until it's, I don't know.
So you're just, remember on this one, you're just recommending, so I would just maybe, if you make a motion, just indicate that last sentence is just exempted from your recommendation, and the council is already in a process of trying to determine that with the applicant.
Thanks, Eldon. We still need to have a public hearing on this. Is there anyone here that would like, I'll open the public hearing portion of this. Is there anyone here that would like to come and speak to this? The public hearing. All right, I will close the public hearing portion of this. Is there anything the applicant would like to say?
How are you this evening?
Good, how are you?
So Thad touched on a couple of key points. You know, we purchased this project.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Oh,
Please state your name.
Sean Colarusso with Preserve at Stuckey Farm. So I'm part of the new ownership group of Stuckey Farms. And so he touched on a couple of key components, one being just modernizing our PCD. And so what we're simply asking for is a setback change that is actually fairly common in other medium density projects in Washington. And so it allows us to, again, build a product that's more applicable to today and that type of density versus what was common in 2006, 2008. And then it also brings our zoning chart into alignment PCD with a couple of other parcels within the project.
So what are the modern ones today that you're trying to mirror? What are they called? Where are they at?
Well, it's just like what we described, you know, that side load type of garage. The size of the footprint, increasing the building envelope a little bit on these smaller lots. It's not going to change the density that we agree to with the city, but it's going to
But
allow
you
us to
stated-
minimize the landscaping around these
You
houses.
stated
units.
that there were communities around here in Washington that have these that you're asking for. I'm asking where they at.
Yeah, so I know that Sunwood has built a couple of these communities. Our setbacks were a little bit different in Warner Gateway, but similar size homes. These homes are, you know, for a Rambler, we're talking 1,600 square feet to maybe 1,800 square feet. The two-story homes are going to be 2,200 square feet approximately. And so it's minimizing, again, the amount of landscaping around the homes and allowing for a larger building envelope. And then also accommodating the number of cars and garages so we don't have as many people parking on the streets.
So one of the attributes of the original approved Stuckey Farms was larger lots, larger homes, kind of estate lot residential. And the new owner is proposing some adjustments that would create less large residential lots. That would also pair with a request for increased residential density, which some of the council members have indicated an interest to, have provided in that area. They're also bringing proposed commercial, which wasn't originally there. And so what you see is the original Stuckey Farms was kind of a rural residential concept on the south end of town. And the new applicant is proposing that it be more of a, near an airport, near an interchange, near a busy highway type use. And so staff's been working with them extensively. They've worked with staff extensively, and we're going through kind of the long, arduous process of trying to get those definitions. And so,
Yeah.
and so mostly this is just acknowledging that the original rural golf course community of Stuckey Farms isn't that really so much as it is kind of a vibrant in the middle of crossroads type community that as it manifests today.
Something else that we're trying to accomplish is more attainable housing. And so along the same lines that Thad has touched on is having those homes that, again, will allow younger families to come into the community and not just quarter-acre lots with large homes or third-acre lots with large homes, but to bring in those younger families that can grow with our community, can grow within Washington. And then we will have in other areas within the project, larger lots and larger homes. And at some point, hopefully, they will end up graduating into maybe some of those larger homes within the project. But we do need to have, an attainable housing component as well. And we think that this allows us to do that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
If we go to the 5 feet, is what you're asking for instead of 8 feet, is it going to be 10 feet away from each house? Yeah, between the houses instead of 16 feet.
It's not much. 6 feet's not much.
Yeah, but
Drew, are they doing it like, me mentioned Sunwood, are they doing it like Sunwood where where the garages are like on the lot line and then the other house is 10 feet in.
These guys have a lot more than Sunwood's ever had. My first answer is probably not. Sunwood's kind of had a specialty of finding small spaces and fitting it in. And these guys, one thing they bought was, I think, close to 600 acres, and a whole bunch of that was open space type areas. And so I don't think they're trying to just squeeze it in up against lot lines as much as they're trying to adjust it in a way that they can get justify a request for an increased density. And then also provide a product that probably wouldn't be able to be built on a 30-acre lot, just because you got to build enough unit to justify the cost of the land that it's on. Remind me who DeVario is. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to
I'll pop in. If you've driven through Brio, this will look a lot like Brio is. Brio has similar standards in there. That's one you asked, what other ones. Brio has that. There's a few places in Sienna Hills that have done this as well, but Brio is probably the best example. If you've driven through Brio's layout, you'll see it'll be a lot similar to what they're seeking here. They marketed, quote unquote, to 55 and older, but they're not 55 and older. Nobody can do that anymore. Federal laws and state laws kind of prohibit keeping other people out. So a lot of them, that's why you don't see 55 and older things anymore, because it was, what's the word? Discriminating against other things.
Modernizing.
So a lot of them just drop the 55 and older, tags. And because then they came out and said you had to have an 80-20, at least you could allow up to 20% being it just got to be too much of a nightmare. So they'll just market, like that's all Brio did, was put out all their advertising to a lot of where they know 55 and olders are looking. And that's why I bet you it's probably 90% 55 and older, but it wasn't. It's only because they marketed that way, but could not tag it that way and restrict, so.
Well, I'm old-fashioned, so I'm not modernizing. So that's kind of where I'm headed. So I just think 10 feet between houses is pretty dang close. 16 feet is close, but it's far enough. Yeah. Right. So anyway, I'm old-fashioned.
This is Davis again. And so just so that I'm clear, when I look at the matrix and we see below for medium-high density, exceptions have been made previously for this development. In essence, the same story has come before this body.
And as Commissioner Anderson, they're comparing it to the straight zoning, but they're not straight zoning. They're customized zoning because they're PUCD. So they've got it as comparison's sake, but they're not changing the city code. They're changing their own thing, which was already custom to begin with.
Either way, we need a motion.
Okay, this is Commissioner Davis. I will make a motion regarding item Z2509. Request to approve the request to amend a portion of Stuckey Farms PCD, making changes to the setbacks listed in the medium density PODs. This will be in compliance with the findings and conditions of staff, and will also be noted to omit the maximum total units allowed comment within the.
Commissioner Anderson, I second.
I got a first from Commissioner Davis and a second from Commissioner Anderson. Individual voting, Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Commissioner Schill.
Nay.
I'm Commissioner Bullock. I am an aye. This will go to City Council with a recommendation of approval. Item number 5.
Commissioner Anderson, I recommend adjournment.
Shield, I second.
First and second, all in favor? All right, welcome to the Land Use Authority meeting for April 2nd, 2025. We will start the meeting off with agenda number 1, approval of the agenda.
Commissioner Davis, I move for approval of the agenda.
Shield, I second.
First from Commissioner Davis, second Commissioner Schill, all in favor?
Aye.
Item number 2, approval of the minutes from the Land Use Authority meeting of March 19th, 2025.
Shield, I would move that we approve the minutes from the March 19th
Commissioner
use meeting.
Anderson, I second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Item number 3,
This is Anderson, I move to adjourn.
Second, Shield.
first and second on the adjournment, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.